Hey friends, I'm Daniel Nesbitt, and welcome back to the next episode of Designing a Revival Typeface. In the last episode, we made some pretty good progress, and in this episode, we're just going to keep compounding and building on that progress. So the first thing that I'm going to do is probably just jump into a letter here. I guess, unfortunately, didn't have too many questions from the comment section in the last episode. We did leave off on the capital D, and we were kind of bouncing back and forth between uppercase and lowercase characters. So I think we just need to determine what the next letter in our series is going to be. And I think I may jump down and start doing some of the... Actually, you know what? Let's stick with the uppercase characters, because I think there's a few easy ones we can knock out here. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go ahead and we'll kind of do what we've been doing all along here. We'll grab our scanned image. I'm just going to drag this over. I'm going to try and get this one close, roughly about where I want that. With the L, we will lock that in place. And I'm going to grab a capital H here because I want a horizontal and vertical stem. So we'll just go through and kind of knock out some of these easy uppercase characters. And for this one, it shouldn't be too terrible at all. So, just jump in, get that done. I guess what's kind of nice about an L is that there really isn't a whole lot to it. Now, for the side bearings, I'm actually going to use the O instead of the H for now. When you have this much negative space, or blank space, I guess, that the L takes up to the right here, it would just look a little bit awkward if I used similar side bearings. So it kind of looks a little bit more even here. I may go back and adjust this later on as we start building out more characters and see this more in context. And at some point, I do want to bring in some testing things as well that kind of start to put this typeface through its paces a little bit more. But I think for now, for the time being, we're okay with that. It's also nice because we can kind of quickly move on to the next character. With that out of the way, I'm actually going to go through and I'm going to kind of grab a few similar characters here. So, I did not grab all the ones I wanted. I think I wanted the T2. And I think for now, that will be okay. I think some of these other ones are, like the M and the N, for example, is what I was looking at, but I think the angles start to add an additional element that I don't quite want to deal with yet, so there's nothing wrong with that. We'll just we'll carry on with these shapes here. So we'll get that E into position, and again, there's going to be a lot of rinse and repeat, at least kind of at the start here, as we kind of get some of these put together. But what I will say, as I'm kind of going through this, and if you're an experienced type designer, none of this is going to be new. If you're getting into type design, you'll notice that not all of these characters are just a quick copy and paste and then, not adjusting anything. There is actually a lot of adjustments to these different characters. And so, like, what you'll notice on the E, for example, is the bottom stem stuck out a little bit more than the L. The top one was actually about the same width as the bottom bar of the L, and then of course the middle stroke here, it kind of creates kind of almost like an arc shape to the right edge here, and that's kind of what's interesting for me with type design, is that you've got all of these little adjustments and everything that you're constantly basically just optically adjusting as you go, so that it looks normal when you go to use the font. So we'll get these in place, and I am moving this over just to get roughly where my scan was, because I'm not really placing the scan where it probably could be to adhere to the side bearings. What is interesting too, I'll point out, so I'm following my scan here with the F, but I do want to highlight something here. typically when we're designing fonts kind of in a modern age, you might actually consider dropping this down a touch more, because we're trying to chew up some of this blank space down here, and that does kind of mean opening it up above here. And in an earlier episode, I did mention that, you know, the old fonts, they kind of did this. I think we were looking at the capital P when I mentioned that. And this is just kind of another one of those spots where, you know, a number of years ago, you might have, you know, seen decisions like this being made where we don't really do that today anymore. And I'm still not exactly sure if I want to go through and modernize this all the way, because I do kind of like some of this character. But it certainly is something that probably catches, I guess, a modern designer's eye a little bit, that it's not going to look exactly like what they're expecting that you might see in a modern day revision of, let's say, Franklin Gothic or Helvetica is always kind of a popular one. So it's worth kind of pointing some of those things out. And this could also be a thing too where I end up doing, you know, kind of a more accurate revival of this typeface that's true to these forms. There's always the possibility that I could go back and you know, maybe do something that's more, I guess, kind of a modern take on this as well, which I haven't exactly ruled out yet. Anyway, for the time being, it's kind of getting us through what we need to. So there we go. That gets us through a few more characters, and I'm also just trying to kind of keep an even amount of characters done kind of through the upper and lower case here. I don't know at this point that there's much of a rhyme or reason to kind of how I'm jumping around a little bit, other than I'm just trying to find, you know, letter forms with kind of common DNA. You know, so obviously something with a vertical and horizontal stroke, it's easy to kind of knock all of those out at once. If there's something, you know, like the N here that quickly turns into an H, or combining a couple things and getting kind of those PDBQs, things like that are helpful. And speaking of that, one other character I could jump back to. I'm just going to grab my image from the capital T here. I think we actually could jump back to the lowercase, because that M, there is going to be some adjustments here, but I think it's relatively close enough to what we did for the N and H that we can kind of do something with this. So we'll roughly get that into position. We'll lock image. I'm going to pop in an instance of the N and decompose it for no other reason than why not. And then what we'll do here is we'll just kind of push this into place. What's also nice with this is that I can basically just use these side bearings as is. Now, something I do find interesting is that this seems to have... it seems like when they design this, typically these days we'd make this negative space here narrower than the N, so that visually, it, you know, width-wise, it looks maybe a little bit more even. I do find it interesting that in this scan here that apparently they decided not to do that. It basically looks like they just extended the N over another set or another unit. For the time being, I think I'll leave that. It certainly is an interesting decision on their part, though. I'm gonna bump this a little bit, give that a little bit more weight, just because this is kind of coming into more of a curve here, versus this one kind of just goes into more of a straight line. I don't know if much of this really matters as much. You know, visually, I'm just trying to achieve something that looks pretty similar on both sides to my eye. But yeah, I'll be honest, I didn't expect the lowercase m to be that, not put up that much of a fight, I guess. So here we are. What else can we tackle here? Since I am kind of looking earlier on in the alphabet here, we do have the F, I, and T, and actually we can throw the J in too. And this is, I guess, kind of another set of related letters here of sorts. And I think what I'll do is I'm actually going to start with the J, just because that's next to the I here, and really no other reason beyond that. But what we're going to do is we are going to use that I. And just kind of run this over some. And kind of get my image just a little bit more in place here. I think that'll work out. Lock that back up. Now for the J, we just need to worry about this hook. And the reason that I'm doing this here is I think I can reuse this hook for the F and the T as well. So let's take these two. We'll kind of move them down a little bit. And I think what I'm going to try first here is to see what I can do with as few nodes as possible. So let's adjust these. And then I'm going to kind of do what I've done before, where I move these two handles at the same time. Because it seems to me this does kind of curve back up a little bit. I'm also just trying to take care that this point doesn't get too sharp. I may come back at some point and just kind of notch that out a little bit. For now, just because I'm also kind of thinking about edibility, I'm just going to leave that. But it seems that it kind of does something like this. And then I don't know if I really want to use the overshoot down here. I might not. It feels like it kind of does something like this. Maybe smooth that out a touch. I don't think that's the end of the world. And then pretty much all I'm doing here is I'm just kind of taking a look at the weight. So we're roughly 60, 61-ish. It's not exactly perfect. We just kind of want to keep that as a nice smooth curve. The other thing I'm looking at is for my lowercase, not clace. So 53 units is kind of my horizontal narrow measurement. This is at 60. I may be inclined to kind of match that up a little bit more. I might not go all the way. So this is kind of one of those odd things where... take my advice from an earlier episode, no one would probably notice anyway. Maybe I'll just kind of rest that there. Just throw a P next to it. I don't know that you'd see these two characters next to each other super often, but I'll do that for now. I'm actually just going to steal the side bearings of the I as well for this one. I think that looks pretty even across there. The J for me is kind of one of those unassuming, tricky characters to deal with. I think I might also throw the heat map on here too. So I'm kind of looking at this red piece here. It looks like it kind of evens or tapers out fairly well. So for now, I think we'll roll with that as my solution to the J. Now for the F and the T, that's going to kick out a little bit more. But my assumption here with both of those is that it's pretty much going to be similar, where we draw either the F or the T first, mirror it, and then we should have something in the ballpark for the opposite characters. So what I'll do is I'm going to just kind of, I guess we'll start with the F just because that's where I'm going. Go back and grab the image. Get all of these lined up. Make sure I've got that locked. Alright, and then let's just kind of get some of these into place here. So, kind of what I expected. It's not going to be perfect. I'm actually going to get rid of these curves because I do like my horizontal stress there, so we'll leave that. But it certainly feels like this kind of, it's almost like it kind of flattens out a little bit and then curves down. So what I might do is take my knife tool here, and we're just going to kind of line these nodes up a little bit. And actually, while I'm doing that, I guess we'll do this on the fly. I just realized I did not have my my shortcut box on in the corner, so apologies if you were watching this wondering where that was at. Alright, so with that back out of the way, I think what I'm going to do is just try and square these two up a little bit more. So we've kind of got a nice 90-degree angle, or a 45-degree angle going on, my bad. Perfect. And then we'll go through, I'm pretty much just gonna let those curves kind of do what they need to do. From there, we'll just kind of push these out. I think these can actually start a little bit earlier too. So that's still 64 by 64. Actually, these might just be a broader curve. That seems to fit a little bit better. I don't know if fit curve is going to work a ton on this, but I suppose we can give it a go. I guess it kind of cleans up the top one a little bit. The other thing I'm going to take a look at again, we'll throw that heat map back in there. And kind of similar to the J, we're just kind of looking that it kind of tapers. So we're going from 65, which is our vertical stem. It does kind of thicken up a little bit before it tapers off there. But that also may just be where I'm drawing my line. But I guess the two things I'm looking at, that heat map definitely helps me out some. The scan seems... It seems like it fits the scan pretty well too. So I may just go with that for now. The other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to steal the dot, which I just realized is probably too thick for this crossbar here, but that's fine. We'll make it work. So 53 is my narrow unit. And I do want this to rest on the top of the X height, which it looks like it is. And just kind of bring that across. I think this might actually be a touch thicker there. So does this bring us up to 56? I'm going to make note of that for now. We may keep it at 56, we may adjust that a little bit more. One thing I do want to point out here, you will notice it is kind of fuzzy, and I do apologize, but this does kind of, curve down here a touch. So this is one of those places where that could be ink spread. That could have been how it was designed, and I may have to take a closer look at this. There certainly is an option, or an argument maybe if you want to call it that you could go through and I'm just kind of doing this haphazardly, mind you, but you could do something like this so it kind of curves out, and it does look pretty cool, don't get me wrong, but kind of looking at how some of these other characters are, I don't know that really fits with this this typeface and the way that this is being constructed right now. So I'm going to purposely just leave that as a clean 90-degree intersection there. And then again, we'll just I'm just using the N and the O side bearings for now until we have maybe some more things to work with. We'll also go back and kind of do the same thing here for the T. All the way over there. Now the thing with the T is it's going to be a little bit shorter. It's not going to go all the way to our ascender height, but that is okay. So we'll take the F and we'll throw that in there. Just kind of get this lined up to the best of my ability. Doesn't have to be perfect. We'll go ahead and we will decompose that. We will mirror the T upside down. And we'll just kind of push these into place. So the tail is, it may actually not be related to the F. This may actually be related more to the J as I look at this. So let's steal the tail of the J. And we'll kind of connect that in, because what I'm seeing here is it almost looks like it's just, it's kind of bigger, basically. So we'll just kind of push these into place and see what we think. Again, that's 53. I'm going to move this up a little bit more because it sticks out a little bit more. We're going to use that 56 measurement instead and see how that kind of treats us. But maybe something like this kind of works out a little bit better. I think I can kind of maybe take these and smooth that out a little bit more. But yeah, it does seem like the T kind of kicks up a little bit. So we don't want to open a corner. I want to unlock the image. So I guess I'm gonna kind of have to compare these two this way, but yeah, this does seem like it kind of curves a little bit more. So maybe what I have to do, if I just kind of push this back here, you just kind of have to finesse this a little bit more. Kind of what I'm seeing is that there is more of a, it kind of lands and makes more of a smoother connection, almost like a rounder connection down there. And I think same for about there. So what I'll do for these is try and get these lined up a bit more. And I think for now I'm just going to worry about the left side of this. I'm not going to put too much thought into this portion over here. We can kind of deal with that separately in a moment. Actually, these. So 117, 120. One other thing I might do here, I haven't pulled this trick out yet. Sometimes if I'm struggling with an element like this, I'll just draw a circle, because it does seem kind of circular-ish. But I might do that, and then I don't know if that fully gets me there either, but it kind of gives me a template to go off of if I determine that something like this makes me a little bit happier. Just make sure that I'm doing the correct. There we go. So I can kind of mimic the curve that way. Again, make sure that I'm grabbing the right points here. So now I've perfectly mimicked that circle. You can also take this and do this on the inside as well. So this kind of, it just makes it look a little bit more round, I guess, in these places. There's a little bit of a cheat or a hack, if you want to call it that, but sometimes I've discovered this helps. Sometimes it just kind of sets me further off down the wrong path, but maybe this will work, maybe it won't. But looking at the scan, I like how round that it felt before I shifted to this. So maybe that kind of helps a little bit. Maybe it looks a little bit rounder. It does feel like it gets a little bit thicker too, though. Kind of in an awkward place. I don't know if that's maybe just a matter of maybe thickening some of this up a little bit. Kind of thins it out there a little bit, maybe makes it look a little bit more even. I actually am going to work on these other sides too, though. I'll try and get these looking a little bit better as well. And again, I'm just kind of using my eye to make this look somewhat pleasant. Maybe something like that for that one. Okay. Oops, I'll do the same for this one as well. I find the broader curves here to be a little bit more difficult to eyeball, but we can kind of do that. And then again, too, I do have Super Tool, so we could always bring that in as well. So I kind of have a couple choices. I could move the point there, or maybe even use this, kind of curve it that way. Kind of helps out a little bit. So maybe that gets me a little bit closer, a little more in the ballpark. But yeah, it is kind of a tough curve too. So maybe need to go a little bit more. Maybe that's the way to go. Again, this is one of those things where you can kind of sit and adjust until your heart's content, or adjust to your heart's content. But I think too, like, I'm also planning on using this a lot in, I guess I probably could use this font for larger typeset things, but originally when I decided to do a revival of this, what I was honestly looking for was a good text face for my own projects, which is kind of the whole, I guess, design brief behind this, is that I'd love to be able to use this in my own branding for, you know, body copy and that kind of thing. So looking back here, if I'm not really making words at the moment with this necessarily, but it does kind of feel like this, you know, fits in fairly well. So I may just kind of leave that for now. The last thing that I'm going to kind of take a look at is just kind of seeing how these line up. And those go straight across from each other, so it's completely vertical there. And I'm okay with that, because if I ever have a combo like TH, I don't know yet, this will use a O for the time being, but I like how things like the TH relate to each other, and you know, we can kind of work on the side bearings a little bit, which I should probably set those. But I kind of like how that kind of matches up there a little bit, so I think we can kind of go with that and call that good on the T. But as you've probably seen from some of my other live streams or my other episodes, there certainly will be a time to go back and adjust this, particularly as I get into things like printed proofs or you know, even digitally proofing this as well. So I think at this point we'll kind of stop this here. In the next couple episodes, we'll probably start looking at wrapping up some of these common shapes. We've certainly got things like the lowercase U, C, E, maybe the G, the R. Even for the uppercase too, we've got letters like C, B, G, R, maybe the J that we can kind of, build off of what we currently have here and kind of extend the alphabet out that way. But the big thing that we're going to be having to tackle soon, which I always put off to the end, is the diagonal characters. So V, W, X, Y, Z in both cases. It's always kind of been a little bit of a kryptonite for me, if I'm being completely honest. But we're getting close to the end of kind of this first draft of an upper and lowercase alphabet. So I'm just kind of excited to kind of keep these things moving along a little bit. Hopefully you are too. If you're getting anything out of the series, if you're enjoying this, make sure you go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already, or share this with a friend if you've got somebody that you know who is maybe got an interest in typography or type design. It's always fun to see folks interacting with these posts. But with all that said, we're going to call it a wrap on this one. So as always, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.